Good evening, everybody, and thank you once again for joining me here on another session of hashtag Gather to Grow here on Twitter Spaces. I'm very happy to be back. We all come together, we talk about various topics within agriculture. And this week we're focusing on World Milk Day, which is the 1st of June. And we want to talk a bit about, SA production and to give a bit of an industry overview. I have some panelists joining me. As you know, I usually like to get people within the sector to come and join us and share their insights, share their expertise, share their knowledge on the specific topic. My name is Dawn Numdu. I'm your host for Gather to Grow. I'm going to ask my speakers who are here to tell us a little bit more about what they do within the agricultural space and what they do within the milk industry. I'm going to ask Wanda and Nkosi to kick us off this evening. He is a senior research technician at the Agricultural Research Council of South Africa. It is such a pleasure to have you here with me on this space, Wanda. Welcome.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity as well. My name is Wanda Nkosi. I'm a senior research technician. I've been part of the finish of the Agricultural Research Council, based in the Animal Production Campus. I'm based in the Eastern Cape. I work the whole of the Eastern Cape, including the Southern Cape in the Cape. What I'm involved with is the National Dairy Performance Testing and Improvement Scheme, commonly known as milk recording. I'm also involved in this other project, which the National Beef Performance Testing Scheme and your Kaonafatso ya di Kgomo. Those two projects also that I'm mentioning, they're not different from dairy, but they're just there on the beef side and your KYD in the imaging sector. Basically, I work with a start commercial in imaging sector, covering the whole area.
Thank you so much, Wanda. And it is so great to be able to connect with you and to get some insights into the work that you're doing, and specifically to listen to your contributions, to give a bit of a overview of the landscape, specifically when it comes to new and developing farmers. We do have a farmer in the house as well, Nompe Zim. My next guest is Vaughan Koopman. Vaughan is the milk producer and regenerative agriculture manager for Danone Southern Africa, and he's part of the operational team there. And I'm so happy to have him with me as well this evening. Welcome, Vaughan, and thank you so much for joining us. Maybe just a bit about you, where your journey started, more of the work that you guys do day to day. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening, Dawn. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm the Milk Producer Relations and Sustainable Agricultural Manager for Danone Southern Africa. As you know, Danone is a global company, and we have operations in South Africa. We've got a factory in Johannesburg, and we source milk directly from farmers, mostly in KZN, and we've got some farms just outside Johannesburg. I'm responsible for, let's say, two broad areas. The first is the day-to-day interaction and management of the milk flow. So making sure that our factory has got the milk that it needs to produce the products, and liaising with the farmers to make sure that that milk is of the right quality and volume and timing that is optimal for the factory. So that's the one dimension. And then the other dimension is the sustainability side of agriculture. So Danone has recently announced its new framework and how we will be achieving our sustainability targets. And this framework is called the Impact Journey. And really there's three pillars: health, nature, and communities. And we'll probably get into that a bit more. But my job is to interface with farmers that supply us milk, specifically on the nature pillar, to help us achieve our sustainability targets, and at the same time also helping them farm more sustainably.
Thank you so much, Vaughan. We'll get into more of that as the conversation goes on. I know that, everyone does so much and you have such a broad perspective on the industry and you can contribute immensely. And so I'm hoping to pick all of your brains as the hour goes by. It does fly by pretty fast. My next guest is Nompe Zim. Nompe is a Free State dairy farmer. She's also the ARC National Small Scale Master Dairy Woman. Can I say Dairy Woman of the Year? She got that award in 2021. She's one of my favorite farmers. I've seen her wooing a crowd of like 100 and something, 200 learners at our Agricultural Career Roadshow. She's really impressive, and I'm so happy to have her join me this evening. Nompe Zim, welcome. Maybe just a bit about your story and where it all started for you. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nompe Zim, located between Castle and Harrismith in the Eastern Free State. I'm currently in my late 20s. I was actually born at a farm. Right there, I wasn't exposed to much. So farming was my life since the beginning. Even though it was my life at first, like I'm staying at a farm, there isn't much I can do. I didn't have much options. That was my reality. So I ended up falling in love with it up until I matriculated. And that's when I moved to Bloemfontein. I started in my production. I came back to the farm, helped my dad. Unfortunately, he passed on in 2020. I then took over from him. It wasn't that difficult because I worked with him before. Even when I was at school, I'll always refer to him whenever I need help. Even when I come back home during holidays, it was my time to do the practicals because whatever I learned at school, I'll come back to the farm and challenge him, help him to improve the production and all that. So it was difficult, but not difficult at the same time because it wasn't new to me.
Thank you so much, Nompe. And your story is always very inspiring when you tell it. And I'm so inspired by you, just keeping on and doing what you do day to day, despite all the challenges that you and many farmers face daily. So thank you so much for being here and for contributing to the conversation this evening. As I mentioned in my introductions, the topic for this evening is specifically to commemorate World Milk Day, which is on the 1st of June. And I thought perhaps we could just focus for a moment on the significance of this day and maybe actually incorporate, a bit of a story behind what it actually takes to get milk to our tables when we drink that glass of milk. And my son loves milk. I mean, he's drinking it right now with his supper. So what does it actually take as a reminder to consumers and also just incorporating, the significance of this specific day? Wanda, I'm going to start with you and then Vaughan can also contribute. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ron. I hope your son knows where the milk comes from. Yes, basically, I'd like to put it as simple as possible, but it's not an easy journey to be a dairy farmer. Nompe can tell you the frustration that you get on the farm. But coming to your question, we see milk on the table, but where does it come from? Yes, we know that the cows get milked. The first most important thing, there needs to be grass. It comes from the field. The grass grows in the field. That's where all it starts with the soil. That's one part that I think maybe people get neglected on. The importance of a healthy soil is to promote the pasture as it directly influences the health of the dairy cows. Without the healthy pastures, and then you want to produce a good quality milk, then you have a problem there. How do you maintain the health balance in that soil? The soil must make sure that it's got the right amount of fungi, bacteria, micronutrients, microorganisms to sustain that soil fertility, which then transfer to the pastures where the cows get to eat that. To sustain that balance, we need that soil to be tested regularly to address any issues that might arise there. I want to emphasize that the soil is everything where it begins. You have got the land, you've got the soil, then you plant it. Then what we come to now the cows need to eat the grass from the hay that is produced there before the cows get milked. And then the cow gets milked. Once it gets milked, you want to have a quality product that will go to the factory so that Danone and the other guys can produce the varieties of products that are available in there. When the cows are getting milked, there's some observation that you need to make there, which are also crucial. I want to spend a minute today. Your staff needs to be trained, needs to know how to harvest that milk so that you don't milk sick cows and so forth. So one of the tools that I find, and it's mainly neglected as well, it's a milk recording tool, of which I find it in this process, milk recording is a very useful tool to monitor your milk base, because when you do the milk recording, you get to test the milk. You want to see your production, you want to see your lactose, your butterfat, your protein, and your lactose and so forth, and urea. Just a bit of a background in there, what that milk recording is, of which is where I said I am involved in the National Dairy Performance Testing Scheme. This scheme is so old. It's so old that it's over 100 years old. To be specific, it started somewhere around the 1917. The Holstein Society is about 106 years old specifically. But later then, it started with the stud industry. But later, the great heads were also allowed to participate on it. The main aim or the main objective of this scheme is to supply information that will benefit the growth of this industry by utilizing the data that is being collected there to the utmost best, especially to the benefit of the farmers. Because when you collect data, you want to make sure that data will in turn a betterment of your farm. It is used as a selection aid to improve biological and economical efficiency of production of milk by means of performance measurement, because you need to measure that's the data that you're getting. The breeding value of individual cattle can be calculated and effectively applied to increase genetic potential of the dairy cattle. I've mentioned two things. The soil needs to be of good quality. The cows that you milk, you need to continuously improve on those cows. And how you do that? By monitoring every day that you're milking superior genetic animals and so forth, so that you can get higher volumes of milk, higher quality content of the solids and stuff. Secondly, they use it as a management tool, because on the dairy, daily it requires decision to be made. You make daily decisions there. Those decisions make the difference between success and failure on the dairy. I'm sure the dairy farmers that are around here, they will tell you, they will agree with me, they will tell you the importance of that, of keeping a data and making decision out of it. You know, I've read something not long ago on an article that I saw a cow, but it was overseas. The cow lifetime production, it was around about 220,000 kilograms of milk that is produced in its entire lifetime. That's a world record on it. So those are the things, if you monitor, you get a better cows. I mean, that's the emphasis. You want a better cows that will not last long in the head, and they will become profitably as well. I've seen here in the SA, mostly it's pasture-based. I've seen one record or two records somewhere there, 108, 115, the 1,000 kilograms of milk of lifetime production, which means if you monitor this, then the chances are you will be a successful farmer. The cow's milk now, what happens? It needs to be collected. How does it get collected? You know, we see those trucks every day on the road that goes from the farm to the factory. And that milk needs to be transported as quickly and as coolest as possible, and I set in less than 5 degrees to get to the factory. Then it gets to the factory, you processing plant, you get the milk pasteurized, you bottle up, get to the shop, then boom, on the table of the consumer. Then it's where you go and buy your milk, and that is there. I thought this is important just to narrate on it.
No, definitely. I think it is a very important aspect. You know, looking at the time, I can probably, break this session down into 2 parts. So if you're open to it, we'll go through parts of the questions, or at least try to touch on all of the elements we were hoping to discuss this evening. Thank you so much, Wanda, for just setting the scene and giving us that very broad perspective for us to kind of understand the industry and how it works better. And again, it all starts with the soil. And so that's definitely what I love most about agriculture. Vaughan, just your insights specifically around the commemoration of this day and the significance of it, and specifically connected to more of the sustainability practices that you've also incorporated within your company. Thank you so much.
It's a good opportunity for us to remind ourselves of the importance of milk and the role it plays in providing nutrition to so many people, as well as jobs. So the industry employs a lot of people, especially in the rural areas where jobs are so important. And, for us as a business, we play an important role in that whole food supply chain. So, speaking to your question around the sustainability side of things. So, as I mentioned in my introduction, Danone has set its sustainability targets. We've developed what we call an impact journey, and it's focused on 3 pillars: health, so, delivering healthy products to support people's nutrition and health; nature; and communities. And nature and communities are quite interlinked, because we need our communities in the rural areas, on the farms, working the farms and helping produce milk. As Wanda said, one of the key things is soil. So our food security is dependent really on soil, and our production of milk is dependent on a healthy planet. So we're achieving our nature pillar through a regenerative agriculture focus. So helping and supporting our farmers implement regenerative agriculture with a specific focus on soil health. So improving soil is not necessarily a new thing on the farm. I mean, the tillage practices, minimum tillage, no tillage, so in terms of how a farmer plows, has been around maybe for 20 years. And initially, it was a sort of a fringe movement, and now I would say nearly all, if not all, of the farms that we have are plowing their soil as little as possible. So really that's what we do is we got this program where we help support the farmer. We monitor and track the different practices that they're implementing on the farm, and we use that to track our progress against our targets. There's many things that a farmer can do. So there's not a silver bullet or let's say one thing that works for all farmers, but maybe just to name a few practices that a farmer can do on a farm. So if he's looking at improving his soil health, one of the key things is planting many different species, pasture species in their pasture. So in the past, farmers traditionally planted maybe 2 or 3 species. Now the understanding is that the more the better. So 6, 7 species, and that really feeds the microbes, the soil, fungi and bacteria in the soils, which makes it more fertile. That then allows the farmer to use less fertilizers. And the other thing is cover cropping, so not leaving the soil bare, especially over winter or in between cropping or crops, is to make sure that the soil never lies bare and has always got a living plant in it. So those are the type of things that our farmers are doing in terms of improving their soil health.
Thanks for that overview. And I mean, I've come across these practices and farmers talking about this in many times on our sessions, and we've done a topic on cover cropping even. So farmers are definitely leaning to more of these sustainable practices. So thank you so much just for reiterating that. I'd like to also, get a bit of an understanding of what the industry currently looks like within South Africa. I must say that when I speak to farmers, the farmer that actually referred me to Wanda, who's on our panel this evening, stepped out of dairy farming and dairy production because of the challenges that the industry is facing. Maybe we can just give a bit of an overview of what the landscape looks like. And then I want to also hear from the farmer in the room, just talking about her experience. Let me give Nompe a chance to speak first as a farmer to give her perspective of the industry, and then I'm going to give Wanda a chance. Nompe, thank you.
As you said, I'll be discussing the landscape of the dairy as a farmer or maybe as a new beginner.
I'm going to give Wanda a chance to talk. I know from my own experience, my son will sometimes come and moan about something while I'm on these sessions. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute. Wanda, maybe you can just give us a bit of an overview from your perspective and specifically also working with new and developing farmers within the sector. Thanks.
I'll start saying dairy farming is not an easy one. But just to put in perspective and overview over it, I've prepared just an understanding of what's going on in there. Firstly, I would like that the milk that we drink doesn't come from the same breed. There's different breeds that are being milled around the country. Namely, we've got our Jerseys, which is, I think, the second largest. We've got our Holstein, the black and white, red and white as well. We've got Guernseys, we've got Dairy Brownsfields, we've got Ayrshires, and we've got crosses in between. And out of that, we also got goats that are being milk, and it's becoming more prominent milk on the goats. We've got your Sun goats, your milk goats, Trochenberg, British Alpine. It's just to give an overview that it's not only one cow that is being milked, it's different cows. And the different cows, they've got different requirements as well. In terms of production, worldwide, milk produces about 900 million tons of milk produced per annum. So it's quite a big industry worldwide, of which we don't come close in SA. Your India, they produce probably most of this milk, USA or Pakistan and so forth. But coming back to SA, I don't know what your feel is. You're thinking SA produce less than 0.5% of the milk, of the total world milk produced. We've got about 1.2 million cows. So roughly is 0.4 to 0.5% of milk that is produced, which is 3.4 million tons per annum. And then this contributes to about 4.2% of the GDP. Just for interest's sake, dairying is one of the 4th largest in the agricultural sector as well. Another comparison that I can mention also is that in the past 8-10 years, less than 2,000 farmers, I think 2015, they recorded about 1,834, of which last year, about 984. You can see the difference there. Almost half of those farmers, they've diminished they're gone. What causes that? It's another dynamic as well. But on a contrast, or what I was mentioning earlier on, that I found that milk recording has been neglected to such a part, but you can see that it has played over the years. It has played a very, very, very big role. In 2015, there were about 3.173 million tons of milk produced. 2022, 3.403 million tons of milk produced. There's about 7.2% of milk increase on the pool. Why is that? We've saw almost half of those dairy farmers has diminished, but the milk has increased. That is positive. It's because of things like the record and the selection aid, and so that they can continuously improve their heads and tighten screws wherever. So dairy farmers are one of the best farmers that you can get in the world. Another reason I just throw in there, because of this, we hardly celebrate it. That's why one of the things that you say, why do we highlight this day? It's because the hard men and women behind the scenes on the different farms, it requires more effort to milk a cow. A cow needs to be milked every single day. Every single day you need to milk the cow. Either you are on holiday, it's your birthday, you are on Christmas, you are sick, or whatever the case, you're writing exam, but that cow needs to be milked. So it requires people of sober habits, dedication, and commitment. It's a big job. Most milk come from the coastal belt, which is your Western Cape, your Eastern Cape, your KZN. Mostly it's because of the higher rainfall averages compared to the other provinces, makes it conducive for pasture-based farming. In terms of production, still the same, your Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN. Most milk are being harvested there. You heard Vaughan when he mentioned that he's getting most of his milk in the KZN area. It accounts about 75% of the country's milk. The milk composition, do we know what it's in there on that milk? 88% of that milk is water. Then you got about 4% of butterfat, protein 3.4%, and lactose 4.5%, and some 0.5% of minerals that are in there. Yeah, that's just an overview of how the dairy industry is looking like.
Thanks, Wanda. And something that stuck with me, a silly thing actually. It requires someone with sober habits. The cow needs to be milked every day. So I think in that way, I mean, it's a very harsh reality. And maybe Nompe can speak more to this as a farmer herself, who probably goes out there every day and has to continue to milk her cows, whether it's raining, whether the sun is shining. She does what she does every day. Nompe, are you with us? Are you able to chat now? We were just excusing her before because there was a little one wanting some attention before, and I'm very patient because we all have our lives, we have our families, as it is family time. So I respect that also. Nompe, maybe just your experience following up on what Wanda was talking about, more from your perspective. Thanks.
Firstly, I'll talk about the purpose, my purpose as a dairy farmer. On my side, I have to ensure that the safety and quality of my raw milk, it has to satisfy the highest expectation of the food industry and the consumers. I can't do that without focusing on the factors affecting the location of the dairy farm. So as a dairy farmer, first thing first, you need to make sure that there's availability of supplies where you'll be farming from. You can't put your dairy farm on the mountains. You have the truck that needs to collect the milk. How will you do that when your infrastructure is a total disaster? You still have to get the input cost. So you need a good infrastructure to do all that. Secondly, as a dairy farmer, the land available, you need to ensure that it has a rich soil and also it's productive so that you can produce the forage and the grain crops. The reason being, in the dairy farming, you have to produce your own feed if you want to make a profitable business. So if you can't produce your own feed, it means you'll be spending more on the feed, which is what I'm doing currently. My brother here, Putwanda, mentioned that in the coastal area, they have a high rainfall, so they are mostly focusing on the pasture. Unlike us on this side, it's a dry land. Our rainfall isn't that much. Sometimes it's a drought, so we focus on planting silage instead of which at some point you have to cut it, make a silage. You have to plant hay, grass hay and stuff. But on those areas, you just plant pasture, the annual pasture. So you irrigate. This side, you can't do that. And that also affects our production and the profitability of our businesses. The other thing that we face in this side is a theft, actually. So it's a national crisis anyway. whereby there's a stock theft. You lose your cows, your goats. Remember, we're not just milking cows. We have goats also. We have big goat milk producers in the country. So it's kind of difficult, even if you have applied certain measures to protect your animals. Thieves are thieves. They always find a way to attack you. So that also becomes a huge problem. I mean, you must consider it if you're going to farm. The other thing I'd like to focus is the factors that affects the milk composition. Number one, I'll only point you, considering that it's almost 7, the genetic. Putwanda did mention that you have various breeds in the country, and you also differ in terms of milk quality, of which is Jersey, Ayrshire, and Holsteins. And then there's a cross. Those are the 3 breeds that we specialize with in this country. And then the second one also I would like to talk about is stage of lactation. So with emerging farmers, it's not the same as commercial farmers. So commercial farmers, they always have certain number of cows that they put into the lactation. So they'll decide maybe on monthly basis or in 2 months' time, my cows will be calving. As a emerging farmer, you can't do that because you only milk a certain number of cows. Sometimes it's less than 100. So you won't be having at least 20 cows or 10 cows calving every month. That also affects your production, your development, because at the end of the day, in every business, what you want is you don't just farm or do any business. You want to be somewhere. You have the objectives that you want to achieve at a certain stage. But I don't know, it's almost impossible for emerging farmer or developing farmers in this country to be in a commercial level, considering that there's no government support. Even the support that you get from Milk SA isn't enough because they have to meet all the farmers that need support. They can't really help those who really need help. You're just sharing what they have. The other point I'd like to talk about is the disease, which is the biggest enemy. We always have the pandemics now and then. Sometime last year, we had the foot and mouth disease to a certain point whereby we have to apply the safety measures and we were forbidden to transport our animals. So some of us, we bought the animals from the coastal area. It was difficult to get our animals to this site. By then, we already spent our money. So we need those cows so that the production can keep going. But it was kind of difficult. So those are the things that keeps affecting us as emerging farmers. High rainfall, it causes foot rots, injuries, the ticks also, it becomes a problem. We need to celebrate this now and then so that we can raise awareness about the challenges faced by the dairy farmers. There's a power cut, we're losing milk and we're losing profits. We spend so much on diesel cost. We have to pay laborers overtime. It doesn't help at all. But I hope at some point we will get there. I'm afraid we'll keep losing the farmers in the industry because nobody wants to farm with dairy anymore. We're losing big guys slowly. And the import of milk also, it's killing our industry because when you get to the shop, you buy what you can afford. When you get the milk from Botswana, maybe let's say it's 11 rand, my milk is 20 rand, you'll definitely go for the cheapest one. And that affects our production badly. I just hope government can play its part, protect us, but it doesn't happen. Maybe if we can have people protecting farmers against the imports, it will be much better.
Thanks, Nombe. And you've actually answered in part my next question, focusing around the challenges. And then maybe I'd like to ask Vaughan to talk about maybe some of the opportunities that he's aware of, the work that they do with developing farmers, and more about, their goals, what they're doing day to day. It does sound very bleak. When you're talking, my heart goes out to you, Nombe, and from our side, from Food for Mzansi side, Duncan, the editor, is also in the space. He will mostly definitely, write something up based on tonight's discussion. But I'm sure there's more that can be done to raise the awareness. And we have highlighted many of the points that you've shared a moment ago, Nombe. Vaughan, maybe you can talk about some of the opportunities. Is it as bleak as what Nombe is describing it to be? I mean, this is obviously her lived experience. She is in the industry as a developing farmer.
Yeah, from my experience, it certainly is challenging. So Nombe did touch on many of the key things that I've also experienced or seen farmers experience. I think with every challenge, there often is an opportunity. From my perspective, from a milk buyer's perspective, for me, the real opportunity lies in, the milk, the farmer and the buyer and even the retailer and the consumer linking and joining hands in a sense in facing these challenges. So I'm talking particularly around things like climate change. And I think what's really exciting is the growing collaboration, particularly between the milk buyer like Danone and their farmers. What we're seeing increasingly is obviously this awareness from the consumer, from people, about the impacts of climate change. And it's touching all of us. So, and this is where we've got to work better together and while we've started our impact journey. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is what was also touched on was the hurdles for particularly small scale farmers to come into agriculture, particularly at a scale that's profitable. And we looked for partners. So we looked for being able to partner with an emerging dairy. And we came across Ngoga Dairies, part of the Amadlelo group. They've got a number of dairy farms in the Eastern Cape. And we saw that they shared very similar think and ambitions that we did, particularly around sustainability and contributing towards, communities and livelihoods. So we signed them up. So they were very keen to supply their milk to us, and we've signed them up. And we are busy developing our impact journey with them. So they've been supplying us now. It's fairly new, less than a year, and they're very keen to look at implementing regenerative agriculture. And we're obviously keen to support, and we are supporting in that journey. And we're not alone. There are other buyers that are embarking on similar type of projects. And this is where there's a lot of scope for growth and new partnerships. And we see that starting to emerge now.
Yeah, definitely, Vaughan. And it does seem like, like you said, as you responded initially, that, with every challenge, there are opportunities. And it's just important to kind of understand what's out there and kind of make the most out of what's available. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure that many listening here will share this knowledge with others and give them some insights to what you guys are busy with and how they can possibly get involved as well. We have highlighted to some extent the whole thing around sustainable farming practices and techniques that farmers are adopting to reduce their environmental footprint. But maybe we can highlight that again, and maybe some more of the research within the space, and maybe Wanda can come in here again, because, the theme for World Milk Day is focused specifically to showcase how the dairy industry is reducing the environmental footprint while continuing to provide nutritious foods and livelihoods globally. So, Wanda, maybe your thoughts and some of the work that you guys are doing in the research space with the ARC?
No, it definitely is a problem. It is a big one. It's a concern. I think around about 2020, 2021 or somewhere there, I got to meet a study about the carbon footprint. It's mainly, I think it's in a Humansdorp area going the side of the Southern Cape, where the concern was that many dairies of significant carbon emissions. And then as a result, there should be a way to significantly reduce on the methane that has been produced yearly. Dairy secretes a lot of large quantities of methane. It is a concern. And then that the study, it's one to encourage to look at sustainability ways of encouraging farmers to use less nitrogen. Vaughan has mentioned the minimum till, selection of variety of plants that will preserve of the soil nitrates, rotational grazing and so forth. So this is ongoing and it's been monitored as well.
Thank you so much, Wanda, for that. And then, just more around, the feasibility of these practices. How vital is it, and will it kind of help to sustain the industry in the long run? Looking at the decline year on year within the South African milk sector, will we have milk farmers within the next 5 to 10 years? I'd like to get actually this opinion from all of my speakers. I'm going to start with Vaughan and then Wanda and Nompe. Nompe, do you think you'll be able to survive for the next 5 to 10 years?
With the current price, I doubt if I'll still be in the industry in the next 5 coming years or 10 years. So if I am, I guess I'll be the top one. So, yeah.
Thank you for answering so honestly. I really respect that. Thank you so much, Nompe. Wanda, your take?
The situation is not new. We need more resilience from the farmers, and farmers are resilient. I've mentioned somewhere in the beginning that we've got the best farmers are dairy farmers. I don't know if I mostly work with the dairy farmers. Challenges are there, and there are a million of challenges that are being faced, especially in the new entrant farmers. They're always striving for excellency. That is positive. We can see that from the production that is being produced. Because as much as we've mentioned all these other aspects, but we can still see we've got less dairy farmers, but the milk is increasing. So it is vital to take steps like this intervention to mitigate emissions. It's a step in the right direction because you might not see the progress today, but you will see definitely the progress tomorrow. So for me, it will still be there. It employs over 26,000 people in the industry. So somewhere, somehow, someone must do something. I think with the spirits and everything that we have, the expertise that is there, we are on the right track.
Thanks, Wanda. Vaughan, your thoughts, and maybe you can also just address the issues that we spoke about around water scarcity specifically. I know that the industry is very reliant on that, and that's the issue throughout the agricultural sector. It's not just within dairy. So how do you see it moving and growing, and what are your expectations for 2024 and maybe just like 5 to 10 years?
If we look at, let's say, 5 to 10 years first, my sense is that the dairy farmer is always going to be there, but I think the smaller guys are going to fall out of the system. So it really is an economy of scale thing. Like Wanda said, I mean, we got more milk being produced year on year with fewer farmers. So the farmers that are there are getting bigger because it's an economy of scale. So the real concern here, again, is for the small farmer or the farmer that's an emerging farmer who's wanting to come into agriculture. It's extremely, extremely difficult. But for the established large farmer, they are able to overcome the price squeezes just through sheer scale and technology and efficiencies. Looking at the water question, so yes, water is a key limiting constraint because dairy is so water intensive. In good years, such as we've had for the past 3 years, where we've been in a high rainfall La Nina period, there's more than enough water to supply the farm's irrigation needs. But the concern now going into 2024 is the predictions from the various weather services, not only from the South African weather services, but globally, are seeing us moving towards a drought period. So moving away from a La Nina into an El Nino. And that is going to obviously bring extra pressure onto the farmers. Maybe 2024 we'll be able to see it through because we've had good 3 years of rain, but perhaps after that, dams and rivers will start emptying and then the squeeze will be on. So I think potentially it's going to be possibly a tough time if the drought does kick in, which is fairly likely. I think the prediction is sort of a 60%, 70% chance of us going into a drought period. So I think we're in for tough times. And then that not only does it limit the amount of water available to irrigate pastures, it also puts the feed price, the price of maize goes up. So yeah, I think might be tough in 2024, 2025.
Thank you so much, Vaughan, for that overview. And of course, just wrapping up the conversation this evening, I must say I was optimistic going into this conversation. I was hoping to, understand the industry better, and I think I definitely have a better understanding. But we have to be very realistic with ourselves, and so I think that's definitely what my takeaway is that it is changing. I kind of really fight for the smallholder and developing farmer on these spaces because this is basically what we cater them for, to kind of see them get to sprinting speed. And so, Nompe, I hope that you will survive and you will be resilient and continue within the sector. And if you choose to go into another farming practice, then, oh well, as long as you're still a farmer and I can still look you up in 5 to 10 years' time and we can still talk about agriculture and love it. Thank you so much to everyone for joining the conversation tonight. I'm going to ask my speakers to give us one final comment from their side. I'm going to start with Wanda and then Vaughan and then Nompe. Wanda, thanks.
Thank you, Don. Thanks for the opportunity. I think staying positive, even though when things are looking bleak and stuff, there's always a solution. There's always a better thing to do. You just keep hanging in there, as long as you float your head above the water, you will get there, you will pull through. Situations like this, they do come. But, my emphasis is when once you do it and you do it correctly, you will see definitely a better results, and the better results will turn into a more profitable farming. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wanda. Vaughan, your final comments? Thanks.
Again, not to lose heart. I mean, South Africans, especially farmers, are very innovative and resourceful people. And we find solutions in hardship. We've got a fantastic knowledge base in this country. We've got a lot of really good skills. So I think we can always forge a way forward. And this regenerative agriculture approach, so farming with nature instead of against it, I really think is a huge opportunity. So as costs go up, as we get squeezed by droughts, this provides now the technology and the thinking for us to be able to strive and carry on through these difficult times. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Vaughan, and thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. Just your last and final comments, Nompe?
The current price cards, the way rent is behaving, honestly, it will be difficult for emerging and the new farmers to survive in the industry. I do agree for commercial farmers, there might be a way, but for us emerging ones, I honestly don't see. Everything is sky high, the input costs. On the other hand, we're facing the power cards. It's just difficult. I so wish everyone would be on the ground with us and see what is it that we have to do to survive on a daily basis. Trying our best. We don't want to give in. We love the shop. We love dairy. But unfortunately, almost everything seems like it's against us. I hope there will be a way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nompe. And again, I think when I approached you, to talk about this topic and to invite you to be part of the space, you had already said to me, listed the challenges. And I said to you that, I will continue to think about you and I will continue to, in our small way, highlight the challenges and see how we can have more of these collaborative conversations, getting government into these spaces. So maybe as a follow-up, I can invite government in to say, listen here, what is your strategy? Where are the dairy farmers and developing dairy farmers within the master plan, for example? That was a story that was up on Food for Mzansi today. So where are they in the agricultural master plan? So that accountability and transparency when it comes to, saying we are committed, but in what way? So I think from our side, that's definitely what we will continue to do at Food for Mzansi. So my heart goes out to you, Nompe, all of the best with what you do day to day. And thank you to all of my speakers for joining me this evening. It was really insightful. If you're having a glass of milk, if you're drinking milk in your coffee or your tea, think about our conversations tonight. Think about Nompe, about Wanda and the work that he does, about Vaughan and the work that he does with his team and everyone across Southern Africa. I would like to thank you for your time and everything of the best. From my side, have a great rest of the evening. Keep farming, keep thriving, and thank you so much for feeding us daily. Appreciate you and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye for now.